Welcome to today's message, and obviously with what's happening in our world today, we felt that it would be completely irresponsible and insensitive of us not to address what's happening around the world. And this is not just about George Floyd. This is not just about Ahmaud Arbery. It's not just about Breonna Taylor. This is beyond just personal racism. It's a systemic thing. And so we decided today we're going to talk about it. And I want to open up by saying that there's a greeting in one of the northern Natal tribes in South Africa. When they greet one another daily, they say, Sawubona, which translated means, I see you. And the response from the recipient is Sikona, which means, I'm here. And the exchange is so important because it denotes, until you see me, I don't exist. And when you see me, you're bringing me into existence. And that validation, I think that's such a powerful way to greet, is I see you. And what we're seeing that's happening around the world today, protests all over, is because we have a whole segment of our world that is hurting. And Martin Luther King Jr. said that, riot is simply the language of the unheard. We have a whole generation, we have a whole people group that's saying that I'm not being seen, I'm not being heard. And I think we as, to be very honest with you and to be very candid, I feel so unqualified to speak on this, being raised in the family that I was and with the color of my skin. And so we want to hear. So we've brought in just some of our family from our church. We're very multicultural in our church. And, I think that perhaps we might even be blinded to the fact that this is an issue that really is prevalent. And we're thankful. I mean, we're so sad. We feel gutted for what's happened. But we feel that it's so important and it's so necessary because we have people that are in pain. And we, as often as white Christians, are not aware of it or not empathizing with it. When I heard T.D. Jakes talk about the iPhone, doesn't have facial recognition for the black man. How much more evidence do you need to hear that you don't matter, that you're not heard, that you're not accepted? And so these are painful things. And I think we could learn from our African brothers and sisters, Sawubona, Sikona. I see you, here I am. And so that's what we want to do today. So we're just going to have conversation around the table, and we're going to invite you to join us. Well, we're so thankful to have you guys here. And so I thought I'd begin the conversation. What's been your experience? Have you guys faced this that we're hearing about today?
For me, being Nigerian, the first experience of racism I had was when we went to the U.S. to have our second child. So we had our first child in Nigeria, and after about a year or something like that, we realized that he had a medical condition. So we were very scared for the next child, as in if, something was wrong and stuff. So a friend informed us that, the U.S. has a medical tourism thing. You can go tell them that, you're thinking of having a child. So we went to the embassy, told them that, my wife is pregnant because of my son's condition. We don't fully trust the system because they still can't tell us what was wrong with my son. So we are thinking of going to the U.S. They asked, do you have the money? We're like, yeah, this is the money. It was expensive. So we went, we had the child. The delivery was good. So it was time to go back home, and we're at the airport, and next thing I knew was a policeman just walked up to me and said, so that means your child is a citizen. Innocently, because I really didn't know what was happening. I was like, oh yeah, that's what they said. They gave her a passport, but we're going home now. And just then I saw the disdain in his face. And he kept following us till we got on the plane. My wife didn't realize that. It was when we left, I was like, what just happened? Then I realized that, he felt that probably we had come to the U.S. because we wanted to give our child citizenship. Not realizing that the only reason we came was because his parents we just spent a whole lot of money than an average U.S. citizen wouldn't spend to have their child, just because we wanted a healthy child. It was quite shocking, but I was like, we're not staying here, we're going home. We have a good life back at home. We just wanted to use you advertised that you had the medical needs to help people, and we came the right way, but, he didn't see us like that. It was quite funny that he didn't take the time to find out why we did what we did.
And I think that is such a significant thing where you're tainted with one brush without knowing who you are, what the story is. Listening to T.D. Jakes on one of his interviews this past week, he talked about if there's a mass murder, if he's white, then mental health is an issue. But if he's black, he's a criminal. And there's this disparity between, all based on the external, the color of your skin. And that's something that, is really, it is systemic, and it needs to be addressed, Esther, what about your experience?
I have a lot of them. Racism is very ugly, I find. First of all, I'm a mother. I'm a woman. I have a son, a teenage son. So that is a different dynamic in this part of the world. Talking about Canada, the racism is very subtle here, but it's there. There was an instant where I was living in Ontario at that time, and my children were in the Christian private school, Christian. And we were having a fundraising breakfast. They had pancake breakfast to raise funds for the school. And I enjoy volunteering, so I jumped on board to help out. And so there were a group of ladies that were making the pancakes, some were, making the hot dogs. I was with the group that were cleaning, taking the plates away from the table so it's clean for the next group of family to come in. So I walked up to this table with my tray, packing the plates, and the Christian ladies that we all sang together, prayed together before the event started. One of them said to me, "Excuse me, lady, I want you to know that the change I put on the table is for the fundraising. It's not a tip for you." And I was like, what? I was dazed. So I stopped and I looked at her and I was like, why would you assume that the only capacity I can be here is as a hired help? What about me makes you think that? So I said, did you see the children that just came out and performed and did a song? Did you see the 3 black kids? They are my children. My children go here too. I'm volunteering here. And what upset me the most was none of those ladies said anything. They were quiet. They were looking away, supposed to be friends, supposed to be people you hang out with. My son has, maybe not too much of my daughters, but my son, he struggled a lot with things like going into 7-Eleven with his friends. Like, for example, like basketball friends, the team friends, they go to 7-Eleven to get these drinks or whatever. He would come home and say, "Mom, the attendants keep following me, just me. They don't follow the other white kids." Like, why? And I said, well, it's because they think you're going to steal something. And he goes and he starts to do the research. To say, the average person that shoplifts is not a black person. I was like, it doesn't matter. It's where we live. And I have to have those conversations, at work. I used to work for a multinational here. Some people act like they can't hear you. They act like they don't understand what you're saying. And I look at them and say, if you try hard enough, if you pay attention, you would understand me. Interestingly, another European company bought back the shares of our company. And everybody there had an accent. And I was telling my colleagues, now do you understand the CEO? Or you're pretending now because he's the CEO. So, it's everywhere. We see these things. My husband was on a flight, an international flight. This didn't happen in Canada. And he got into the plane and he was, took his seat and The lady next to him said, I cannot sit next to a black man. And my husband didn't understand what was going on. I was like, what? The flight attendants were so upset. They went to the pilot. The pilot came out of the cockpit, went to my husband, and told him, sir, can you come with me to first class? But these are the things we go through. These are the things, when my kids go out, or if like my son when he was in Calgary, he, whenever I got invited out, I'll tell him, when you're leaving the place you were invited to, let me know. Can I come pick you up? And he goes, no, you're always picking me up. I can take the train. I need some breathing space. And I was like, listen, I'm not trying to, suffocate you with my presence. I'm trying to protect you. And he didn't get it. He was like, no, I'm fine. So one of those times he went out and the friends dropped him off at the train station and the train line wasn't working properly. And then, so they dropped him off somewhere in the night. This was in Calgary. And I was at the train station by my house, like, where are you? So I'm stuck at this train station. The next thing I heard the sirens, the police from my end. I was like, oh my God, is he okay? So I took my car, went down to the train station, and there he was. There were like 5 cops. And I was like, why are they talking to you? So he said there was a black kid that was causing problems, probably drunk or high or whatever. And they were talking to every black kid there. And he was shaking, And I was like, yeah, but they were just doing their job. He was like, no, I had to show everything I had. High school, ID card, everything. That, listen, I was just coming from my friend's house. My mom is going to be here soon. And he got into the car when I picked him up. And I was just screaming at him. He didn't do anything wrong. But my fear, I was like, this is what I've been telling you. You cannot go. I was like, Mommy, but... So that is what we deal with. That is our reality.
It's shocking. It really is shocking. What happened last week is nothing less than an atrocity. Yeah. It's just a wicked, cruel act, middle of the day, middle of the street in America. And, we don't treat animals like that. I don't believe that ignorance and good intentions can keep us quiet any longer, and it should not. We need to be uncomfortable, and while we're doing this, Anthony and I, we say, what if we say something dumb because we are not quite aware? Hearing you as a mother, every time I hear, I'm leaving, bye, Mom, every time, drive safe. Don't drive if you don't have to. Don't be out too late. Don't speed. I'm giving them instructions. But then I'm thinking, Esther and Amara and Cece, like, what are you having to tell your children?
Come back alive. Don't argue.
That's one of the most difficult parts, because for us, the adults, like someone like me, I've worked in almost every continent on Earth except South America. So you see too many different people, you be in different environments, and even with the fact that my kids, as they were growing up, when they were still little kids, we always lived in communities where there's nobody else like them. All right? And they will be probably the only people that people around there have ever seen with their skin color. And we went through quite a lot of interesting experiences, how people come to us, how they come and touch you and they want to see whether it will rub off. The thing about this whole racism issue is that there are a few people who do not accept that human beings are human beings. I must say one thing. In all my journeys, I found out that Canada is a special place.
Yeah.
Right?
That's correct.
Canada is a blessed country.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
Canada is exceptionally well positioned to lead the world in dealing with this racial issue. It does not mean there are no racial discrimination problems in Canada. There are lots, all right? But because of the way the system has been structured, people tend to obey the law, and as a result, they drive their racism instincts underground. Now, when we arrived here, in the first 2 years or 3 years we arrived here, one of my kids, he is exceptionally gifted. He's quite quick. In the class, a particular teacher wouldn't let the child be. I didn't ask you that question. Shut up. Somebody else. Let somebody else. I called the principal and I said, I want you guys to test this kid. Reason. The kid said everything they teach in the class he already knows. So it's not useful to him. The kid goes around and in the teacher's mouth, he does not rest. He goes around solving problems for all the other students. And the students were calling him an assistant teacher. But this teacher, instead of supporting these kids and finding out how he can help him, just labeled him a problematic African child. I had to get to the principal. Eventually, what happened was that I had to leave that town. I had to go. Why? Because at the end of the day, it was found that this child was a gifted child, and he needed to go above his class. So we kept asking, what did it take for this teacher to do that? And he wanted to come and test the whole class in all that other work of kids, and we spent 2 years and he didn't do it.
You know something amazing, Amara, what Amara is saying and what Esther is saying. A lot of people do not know when they are racist.
Yeah.
They do not. It's a subconscious thing. And it's crazy when people walk up to you. One of the greatest show of racism is like, oh, you can speak English.
Yeah.
The first language in my country is English. Then we have 300 other languages. So most of the time they say, oh, the reason why you can speak English is because you've been to America and you've stayed in Australia. Hello? How long did I stay in those places? But at the same time, you probably might have had good experiences. You know, one of the best experiences I've had here in Canada is with one of my current bosses. When I walked with him, and immediately after like 2 weeks, he was like, dude, you're brilliant. I'm afraid you will leave this company. I'm like, if you give me a full-time role, I'll stay. And he said, don't worry about it. And, you know, I left the company and I moved to another company. 2 months later, he calls and he says, are you still interested in working in our company? I just got you a role. It's not in my department, but it's something good. Now, for that person, he didn't see the color of my skin. Yeah. He gave me an opportunity, and I didn't have to apply for the job. And that's the one thing you would do when you see black people, not because of their skin, but because of the content of their character.
I was at the doctor's office when my son was it 2 or 3 years? Yeah. I had a friend that, she's still my friend, that had a son with very, very chronic asthma. And this lady didn't have the time because she had to work. So I was home because my daughters were really, they were babies, and David was about 3. I was home because I wanted to stay with them at home till they got to a certain age before going to work. So I had all the time. So I would take this child to Peter Lloyd Hospital to see this one of the best pediatricians in Calgary, because the child needed it. So I was there, and we were in the waiting room, and this little, cute, adorable baby, toddler, looked at David and looked at him and looked at him, and then turned to his mom and said, "Mommy, look." We were all there, you know, the kids were playing, and the mother said, "Yeah, what? Look at him." And the mother said, "Yeah, so what? He's brown." And the mother said, "Yes, he's brown and you're vanilla." You know, for me that was, I looked at her, we acknowledged each other, we didn't say much to each other, but I knew what she was doing, and I appreciated that. I really did. Things that trip me, that really upset me, is when you see me, or this bothers my daughters more than it does me. They go, "Oh, I like your skin," and they start touching you. "I like your hair." Can you walk up to somebody and just start touching them? It's not okay. To your question, when my children go out, or when my son goes out, I tell him things like, "Please don't argue with authority. It doesn't matter if you're right or if you're not right. Just be quiet and obedient, and make sure there are people there." I know other people don't have to think like that, but I have to. Make sure you're not alone. Make sure you're not by yourself. Make sure you're with 2 or 3 friends that can vouch for your character. Make sure you're not walking on the streets in the night. Make sure, and he says like, "Oh my God, this is too much." And I said, well, it is the society we live in. I cannot have you be a statistic, God forbid, you know. So those are so to your point, I have to think about that. I have to worry about that.
We worry a lot about our kids when it comes to this racism problem. I haven't gone to the level that Esther gone, I think because she lived in the U.S., so she had that. With my kids, all I told them is, hey, you're God's best product. You're God's masterpiece. Nobody is ever going to stop you. No human being on this earth has the power to stop you. And I believe it. And I tell them, do your work well. Do not be blamed for not doing your work. Love people. Love yourself. And make sure you're always fair in the things you do. Do not go take what does not belong to you, and respect everybody in the process. But if anybody thinks that it's their business to stop you because of the color of your skin, then move on them like a moving train, and don't stop.
I mean, this brings me to the last point I want to talk about is, you've all mentioned it, the silence. Yeah. The person that had coached you on how to do your presentation, that cost you the presentation, and went quiet. The people, like, where's the parents? Where's the outrage? Like, I'm watching social media and I see this, well, all lives matter. Yeah. That, nothing speaks of white privilege, racism, and people are defending that.
Let's speak into that.
Yeah, the whole silence of the church, especially the Christian, white, where's their voice in this?
It's called alternative fact.
The best answer I've gotten to all lives matter is somebody gave an example, said my wife comes to me and say, "Baby, I love you." And I say, "I love everybody." That's what you're saying. Yeah. When you say Black Lives Matter and somebody else says all life matter, it doesn't correlate. It's not the same thing. Because this is one person telling you and asking you, do I matter? And all you have to do is say, yes, you matter. Don't add, and all people matter. No, that's one person. You address the person. It's like a child coming to meet you and say, Daddy, do you love me? And you say, oh, I love all my kids. That tells you you don't love that kid, because you cannot look at that child and tell that child that child matter.
We want to take this time to speak into our church, to educate, to raise the awareness. There's so much ignorance, and we want to confront it head on. So, Black Lives Matters. Today, we have an opportunity to make a difference for the future. What can we do around the tables of our homes? It starts here and now. What can we do? What can we say to our children to raise the awareness and educate in this moment of change?
Like our kids grew up with your kids, and this is so they're so sensitive to this, which I'm so thankful for. I'm more concerned about the middle-aged white guys that don't get it.
The kids are good.
The kids are going to be great.
It's the adults that are the problem.
It's like, what do we do as a church to protect this?
Everyone knows all lives matter. Because all lives matter, my life should matter. They ignore the history, and they are just talking like it's an isolated case. You cannot look at things that way. I am not asking you to lower the standards for me. No. I'm asking you not to disqualify me because you see me and I look different from you. That's it. Do not give me a chance. Treat me exactly the way you want to be treated. If a dog was treated the way George Floyd was, don't try me, don't convict me, don't judge me, don't execute me on the curb. And it's not an isolated case. No. So what we need to do is have these conversations, talk to people in your sphere of influence. Rome wasn't built in a day. If you can convince one person that we are all created in the image of God, you have done something. And that's how it just keeps spreading. I find that the church in general, the body of Christ, they have abdicated leadership when it comes to injustice in the world. This is what Jesus stood for. Nothing else. Yep. So you cannot tell me you love God and you see this and you look the other way. Yep. You run to Africa, you want to help Africa, you're sending aid. You cannot take care of the people at home.
I'm your neighbor.
Charity begins at home.
So good.
I have to struggle with that and say, okay, you know what? I trust God. My heart is in a good place. Lord, help me. Because the hypocrisy, the silence is deafening. Like, how can you, how? We have an amazing church, but the reality is it's not the world.
One of the things we do culturally as Africans is everybody is your uncle and your auntie.
Yes.
It takes a community to raise a child. That's one thing we believe. But, some white people don't understand that concept. And that's why it's important for you to take time to understand. You want me to learn how to speak English. Learn my culture.
Yeah.
Because my culture has some amazing thing that can make society great. We're taught to respect. We're taught to take care of the elderly. It's a law as Africans that you must take care of the elderly. You must take care of people that have less than you. You must share. So one of the things we do, and for us, as we're building an ecosystem, and we've made our ecosystem small enough because we're trying to protect our kids not to see just the color of their skin, to appreciate the color of their skin, the texture of their hair, if they have an accent, but also know that white person is also your auntie. So one of the things my kids will say is, Daddy, why have we not seen Uncle Alex? Do you understand? Why have we not seen Uncle Alex? It's because, if somebody else hears Uncle Alex, they'll think it's one other black guy. They won't know it's a white Italian Canadian. That just
Swedish.
You got to put the Swedish.
Canadian. Because
Swedish.
One of the amazing thing Alex in the church here has done for my kids my kids keep shouting, church, church, church. They feel safe here. And those are the things you want to do. If you are a white person and a black person doesn't feel comfortable with you, you have to do the racist check.
Can I take it deeper?
That's great.
Can I take it deeper? It doesn't have to be a black or white thing. It's a human thing.
Yes.
It's a human thing. Look at people like human beings.
And they will respond.
Created in the image of God. That is the only thing you need to see. The human being. This is a heart issue, right? So the church needs to take the leadership role in this. You cannot make people understand except God transforms them from within. So I think it's the responsibility of the church to be the voice for this, to be the advocate for the change. In the Old Testament, quote and unquote, the foreigners amongst you, if that's how we are seen, he said, do not oppress them, treat them well. The Bible is full of scriptures like that. It has always confused me how we can say we love God, we are believers, and yet we just close our eyes. Jesus got into messy stuff. We are so terrified of getting into messy stuff, so we avoid it. Silence is consent. If you do not say anything about it, just get out of my way because you are not helping me. But if you're going to say something, it will be messy. It will be hard. But Jesus said, be of good cheer. I have overcome the world. So that's what we need to do. It's going to get difficult. It's going to get messy. But that's what we are called to do. And I'm not saying this because I'm a black woman. It has to be only black issues. Every form of injustice, let's take them one at a time.
You know, and I think this verse, you've seen it posted a lot, 1 John 2:9 says, he who says he's in the light and hates his brother is in darkness.
Is in darkness.
But see, here's the thing. People think that hatred is the opposite of love. So I don't hate. I don't hate that person. This is just not my battle. Indifference is the opposite of love. And what we have in Western Christianity is an indifference. Well, you know, I feel for them. They're not engaged. They're not vulnerable. They're not touched by it. And, Martin Luther King said that, we fear we fear each other because we don't know each other. We don't know each other. We don't communicate. And, like to get into someone else's world. And so thank you for opening up your world to us and allowing us to come in and to be a part. And, someone said, well, love is colorblind, love is gender blind. I disagree. I think love sees gender, love sees colors, and love celebrates it and values it and validates it and affirms it and stands with it. And so I want just on behalf of Madeleine and I and the rest of Calgary Life Church, we absolutely wholeheartedly condemn the racist actions that have been perpetrated in our own community and around the world, and we're gutted by seeing this, and so we want to be. It's not enough just to say I'm not racist. We have to be anti. We have to, for us to be silent, I think is the greatest injustice we can do to you is to think that this is your battle, and just to be silent and say, yeah, I'm with you. But I think it's important for all of us to engage, to stand, and to say, I don't understand everything that you've gone through, but I want to be with you. I just want to be with you in it, and feel your pain, and just know that hey, we're one family, we're one blood, and if one member of the body hurts, then we all hurt. And so for some of the church that I'm sure people tuned out already, thinking, well, this is not really of my interest. But listen, if I hit my pinky with a hammer, I feel it. The whole body feels it, and I think a healthy church, when whatever the injustice is, if it's a race issue or a poverty issue, or when something is being done, we as a church, we have to be evangelistically potent, but we have to be socially relevant, and we have to be engaged in the issues, and we can't miss the message of the moment because we're so caught up about the message of eternity. And so this is our moment that we need to be engaged in, and this is something that God is saying. There's an injustice that's happening, and He wants His church not to be just to be silent in it, but to be part of the healing process.
We love the church. We know the church loves us, and this is our home. And if the rest of the environment would be like the church, there will be no need for this discussion, right? It would be like Calvary Life Church. There will be no need for this discussion. We hope that Calvary Life Church will not just keep the love that we have here. We can export it to the rest of the community and show them what we have so that they can also taste and see that it is good.
One of the most important things Canada has to realize when it comes to Canada's own racism, even Justin Trudeau was referring to it, is the fact that when you see a black person, not all black people in Canada are refugees. Because you, when you talk about immigrants most times in Canada, they think, oh, we're allowing too much refugee, and you see a black person or a person of color, and you automatically think that they're refugees. No. Canada has a population issue. It has an aging population, and they've done the research, and they found out that they need more educated people to help the population. So when next you see a black person, this woman sitting next to me came here as a doctor. I came here as a filmmaker and an accountant. He came here as a doctor. She came as an engineer, because they need people like that to help sustain the economy, because Canada has an aging population. So one of the expression of Canada's racism is thinking that every person of color is a refugee.
Yeah.
We are not.
Yeah.
We are educated, we're talented, and we want to contribute. And for most of us, we won't be here if some of the Western world have not come to corrupt our lands. So don't look at us and think we want to contribute. That's why we're here.
Thank you so much for
My pleasure.
being a part of this conversation, opening up your hearts and your lives to us. And thank you for being a part of this today. And I hope you, share this message and, get conversations going. And I want to challenge you, Calgary Life Church. You know what? Next time when our building is open and you come to church, why don't you just put a roast or put some food on and, on a timer. And then after church, just find the most random person you've never talked to who's so unlike you, maybe from a different cultural background or age, whatever, and just invite them for dinner and just talk and get to know each other. And that's one of the best things that we can do, is to eat around the table together and just talk and discover. You'd be surprised when God wants to bless you. He brings a friendship into your life. He's waiting to bless you. He's waiting for you just to open up your door and invite somebody. Thanks for being a part of this, everybody. God bless you.